The Dogon people, living in the desert regions of West Africa, aren't all that different from other neighboring tribes within Mali. Just like many other ethnic groups across Africa, the Dogon make their homes in small clay huts or even caves, leading incredibly modest and impoverished lives. They enjoy dancing on stilts, tend to their fields by planting millet seeds, and have no written language of their own. Hey there, everyone! So why has this particular group become the center of such intense academic debate in recent years? Welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving deep into the topic, breaking it all down step by step. Let's get started. An astonishing history. Back in the 1930s, a French ethnologist named Marcel Griaule set out to study the Dogon people. He was gathering firsthand exclusive information about this unique tribe. Because they had lived in isolation for so long, the Dogon were able to preserve their cultural traditions and legends, free from the influence of the more civilized and numerous groups surrounding them. Griaule spent years living alongside the Dogon, becoming practically one of their own. Their trust in him ran so deep that he was eventually appointed as a spiritual priest within their community. With this sacred role, Griaule was granted access to secrets that most ordinary members of the tribe would never be allowed to know. He discovered there were special caves, guarded by priests, that no one outside this select group was permitted to enter. And when one guardian passed away, another was quickly chosen to take their place. This sacred tradition had been kept alive, unbroken, for over 700 years. Beyond that, Griaule also learned an incredible number of legends, passed down with stunning accuracy. Since the Dogon had no written language, these stories were preserved entirely through oral tradition, shared from one generation of priests to the next. By comparing the events described in Dogon history with modern timelines, it's clear the tribe has been living on the Bandiagara cliffs since the 1300s. Before that, they made their home along the upper reaches of the Niger River, in what is now known as Sudan. Today, the Dogon villages are scattered at the base of towering rocky cliffs, with flat-roofed clay huts built in a seemingly haphazard way. Interestingly, these huts are intentionally constructed low, so that when men get into heated arguments, they can't fully stand up and fight. What's really worth noting here is that the Dogon are known for their peaceful nature, and that's exactly how Griaule was able to earn their trust. But after World War II, Griaule wrote down all of the secrets they had shared with him, essentially betraying that trust for academic gain. If the Dogon had been able to read, they probably would have objected to having their sacred knowledge revealed to the outside world. And no one would have objected more strongly than Ogatamele, the tribe's wise elder. According to Griaule's own writings, it was this high-ranking figure who shared with him the deepest, most sacred knowledge over the course of 32 days. Knowledge that puzzles astronomers. For quite a long time, though, Griaule's writings didn't cause much of a stir. Honestly, only a small circle of specialists ever showed much interest in them. But everything changed dramatically when one of his papers, describing the Dogon's view of the universe, happened to catch the eye of a renowned British astronomer. That moment kicked off what's become an ongoing scientific uproar, continuing to this day. So what exactly was it that shook this British astronomer so deeply? Well, it turns out that the Dogon, who were considered illiterate and uneducated, somehow possessed astronomical knowledge that modern science has only recently uncovered. Granted, their understanding was pretty fragmented, but much of it centered around Sirius. Sirius, for context, is a star located in the constellation Canis Major, sitting at 8.6 light-years away from Earth. Thanks to its heat and relative closeness to our planet, Sirius shines as the brightest star in the night sky. But the star we call Sirius is actually a binary system made up of two stars. One of them is Sirius A, the bright star we see with the naked eye. The other is Sirius B, a white dwarf invisible to the naked eye discovered in 1844. These two stars orbit each other around a shared center of gravity, completing a full cycle roughly every 50 years. Sirius B is a white dwarf, a star so dense that its matter is compressed into an almost unimaginable size. Interestingly, Ancient records describe Sirius as having a reddish hue in the distant past. Astronomers believe that Sirius B lost its red cloak relatively recently in cosmic terms, sometime around the 2nd century AD. But according to the Dogon, Sirius isn't just 2 stars, it's a system of 3. The Dogon priests even knew that one of these stars was a dense white dwarf. More astonishingly, they had accurately calculated that Sirius B takes 50 years to orbit Sirius A. And on top of that, they were aware of a massive explosion that caused Sirius B to lose its outer layers. The priests' broader knowledge about the universe and our solar system is just as mind-blowing. For example, they knew that Jupiter has 4 massive moons orbiting it, that Saturn is surrounded by rings, that Mars has 2 moons, and they believed Venus had 1 moon as well. When it comes to the origins of the universe, the Dogon's understanding is surprisingly in line with modern science. According to Griaule, the high priest shared with him a sweeping vision of the universe's birth, describing a Big Bang-like event where all matter was compressed into a dense state. Despite being an uneducated tribe, the Dogon believed, just as modern cosmology does, that after this cosmic explosion, matter cooled and spiral galaxies began to form. Naturally, it's hard to wrap one's head around how much an isolated, primitive tribe could communicate these highly specialized scientific ideas using only their basic language, which raises serious questions about the credibility of this entire story. A legend of visitors from the stars. So, how did the Dogon priests explain where they got this astonishing knowledge about the universe and the Sirius star system? Their answer is actually pretty simple. According to them, all this information was passed down directly from beings who came from the stars, aliens known as the Sirius people. As the Dogon legend tells it, around 700 years ago, astronauts from the 3rd planet of the Sirius system traveled to Earth and landed in their homeland. These extraterrestrial visitors wore helmets filled with liquid over their heads and arrived aboard flying saucers. Images of these saucers, along with depictions of figures wearing strange headgear, much like modern space helmets, were carved into the local rocks near statues of these beings. What's truly astonishing is that photographs of these carvings have been published in numerous books and articles. And the dating of these rock engravings places them in the 13th century, about 700 years ago, and no serious doubts have been raised about their age. The priests also believe that these extraterrestrial visitors will return someday to teach them how to use the knowledge they were given. The Dogon never forget their teachers, and every 50 to 60 years hold the Sigwe festival in their honor. It's no coincidence that the interval between these festivals closely matches the time it takes for Sirius A and Sirius B to orbit around their shared center of gravity. During the Sigwe festival, the Dogon believe that the world itself is renewed. And they also believe that the Sirius beings choose this exact time to visit Earth once again. For each Sigwe festival, special wooden masks are crafted by hand. But after the festival ends, these masks aren't discarded, they're carefully stored in a sacred place. And looking at the number of masks that have been preserved, it's hard to believe that it's just a coincidence that this tradition has been celebrated for over 700 years. Did aliens really visit? To this day, the scientific community continues to debate the credibility of the claim that beings from Sirius actually visited the Dogon people. Back in 1975, American scholar Robert Temple fueled this discussion with his book, The Sirius Mystery, presenting what he considered solid evidence supporting the existence of extraterrestrials and backing up this theory from a specific angle. But rather than looking for proof of alien visitors, many researchers have focused on finding flaws in the theory itself. One of the strongest counter-arguments against the alien hypothesis comes from a theory involving Christian missionaries. According to this view, the Dogon acquired their knowledge about the universe and the Sirius system from a Catholic missionary with the White Fathers Organization, who visited the region in the 1920s. But no solid evidence has ever surfaced showing that these missionaries actually made contact with the Dogon. While the missionary group was indeed active in Mali during that period, whether they reached the remote Bandiagara Plateau remains uncertain. Those who oppose the alien theory argue that the missionaries may have manipulated the Dogon's reverence for Sirius to serve their own purposes. To win over the trust of the Dogon, the missionaries might have played along with their local myths about Sirius and shared additional cosmic knowledge with them. And where did that cosmic information come from? Most likely, it was lifted straight from popular newspaper articles of the time. In fact, during the 1920s, stories about the first discovery of white dwarfs and the orbital characteristics of Sirius B were making headlines in many media outlets. Some scholars believe it's entirely plausible that the Dogon absorbed these stories from the missionaries, blended them into their mythology, and later passed them along to Griaule. But even that theory leaves some questions unanswered. Why, for instance, did they claim that Jupiter had 4 large moons when by that time 8 were already known? And why insist that Venus has a moon when even back then it was well established that it doesn't? To this day, scholars remain divided over the true source of this primitive tribe's astonishing knowledge of the cosmos. So perhaps it's worth considering the balanced perspective of German astronomer Dieter Hermann. His conclusion? Right now, we simply can't fully confirm or completely dismiss the possibility that the Dogon were taught by beings from another world. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with your friends. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, take care and goodbye.